So we have Bitcoin dipping just below the $100,000 mark right now. But in today's show, we want to go through exactly why we're seeing a very, very similar print on the weekly candles to what we saw back in 2020. And it did lead into an absolutely enormous move. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'll show you why that's likely to repeat once again. But first, let's have a look at the Banter bubbles chart over here, which you can see a lot of the coins pulling back over here on the Audi. I do think that if the weekly actually closes red, this could be a really, really good sign to line things up for next week. So we'll get into why that is. Make sure you smash the like button, hit the bell notification, subscribe to the channel, and then also have a look at the poll. We're currently running a poll. Would love to know how much cash you're currently sitting on within this part of the crypto cycle. Under 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75, or more than 75%. In the comment section, you'll find that poll over there. Make sure you go and vote, and then also let us know your reasoning for why you've chosen to hold that much cash or that little cash. So let's get straight into it. Quickly having a look at the daily time frame over here. Still pullback in motion. Weeklies, so and so. It depends what coins you're holding. Some up, some down. Monthlies are all still up. But what I really wanted to have a look at is the comparisons between the volatility indicator that's called the BBWP, the Bollinger Bandwidth percentile, lined up on the bottom of each of these line charts, and kind of where things are at, right? How much momentum is still left within this particular move. And then we're going to study a little bit of what happened back in 2020, because we're seeing some very, very similar prints within those candles. And we're going to look at a bunch of other data as well to compare around those candles that we saw back in 2020 leading into this week of December, but back in 2020, and what happened next, right? So a lot to look at over there. You can see if you look at the Bitcoin chart over here, of course, still busy breaking out of that massive cup and handle formation, getting very, very close to the intended targets. But if you do look at the volatility on a monthly scale, well, it's only just started to increase. Remember, this line can go on a lot higher, like the previous tops that we've seen, have actually occurred into periods of extreme volatility. So this can easily increase a whole lot. If you look at Ethereum on the right-hand side, also only just breaking out of its cup and handle formation, approaching that neckline as it currently stands, and also coming off of very, very low volatility, which you can see also the prior cycle tops occurred over there during those periods of increased volatility where things get really, really heated. And we use that line to assess where the volatility is at. If you look at Solana as well, Solana put in its prior cycle top over here on a monthly scale. No, we don't have the prior history over there, but if you go into the daily or weekly time frame, because this is a monthly, you'll get a lot more information. But nevertheless, printing the ultimate top on a high monthly print for the volatility indicator over there. And then also having a look over here at the same thing, which is the total 3 divided by Bitcoin. That is essentially the altcoin sector measured against its performance against Bitcoin. And we tend to see that sector also peak over there on high volatility. And if you have a look at this over here, the volatility is still relatively low, which means there's still an opportunity for major expansion towards the upside. And that basically, in simple terms, means that there's still for sure a lot of meat left on the bone, at least when it comes to the various different altcoins. Ethereum is one of the top blue chips. Solana is another one of the top blue chips. And you can see the measured move over here on Solana to play out that cup and handle formation will take it up to $414, which is almost 100% move from current prices. And then not to mention just that, but the most important chart, because we know that's where we make the majority of our capital and our gains, is coming from, of course, the altcoin sector. So total 3 measured against Bitcoin. Now, what I found incredibly interesting was I was having a look at the current price action over here and the candlesticks that we're currently printing. So if we just grab our highlighter tool over here and we line up the timing as well, very, very similar, right? The 18th of November was that weekly candle over there. If you look back in 2020, this was the weekly candle on the 16th of November. And then you look at the weekly candle on the 25th of November this year. And then you look at 2020, 23rd of November, the weekly candle over there. And I guess you can see the pattern continues to persist, right? So pretty much if this is a fractal that is to play out, well, we're currently situated on that weekly candle, which is exactly like we saw back in 2020. And we know what came next, right? After that 2020 candle leading into December, you started to see rapid expansion for Bitcoin. And that really initiated the very, very start of the parabolic advancement. But we can, of course, take things a step further. One of the things that we've been looking at with price action currently is the triple confluence essentially that you have in the form of the 50% level, taken from, of course, that overall range over there, lining up at around that $76,683 level. That lines up with your 21 weekly exponential moving average, which is rising, currently situated at $77,500. And then you also have that stop and reversal indicator, the little asterisk sign. Well, if you go and you have a look over here, there's a lot of similarities as well, in the sense that price at this point in time was also relatively overextended from, of course, that 21 exponential moving average. So overextended from the yellow line, just like we're seeing right now. You also had the stop and reversal indicator trending underneath price, holding a support, just like we're seeing right now. So quickly going back onto this over here, that's essentially what we're looking at for current price action. And this is why I've outlined that I think that it's less likely that we're going to break below these key levels for that particular reason. Now, history doesn't always repeat one for one. It very rarely does, but it actually does rhyme quite a lot, right? So I think it's noteworthy. I think it's something important to look at. Now, just going back to that double chart over here, let's just go back to the double chart with the 2020 fractal lined up with the current fractal. What we can do is we can take it a step further, and we can also have a look at, well, what actually happened with Bitcoin, particularly in those months, and then we'll look at Ethereum. So specifically, if you go back to 2020 and you look in over the October-November period, right, we saw 27.7% in October 2020. Then we saw 42.95%. So basically a small amount and then a large amount. If you look at the October-November of this year, very, very similar, right? 10.76% with diminishing returns, of course, expected within this particular part of the Bitcoin life cycle, because there's so much more market cap and money to move these particular assets. 37.29% in November. And then we fast forward to 2020, looking into December, you got the 46.92%. So one more massive pump towards the upside. So it is still possible. A lot can happen in just 2 weeks, right? We've seen crazier things happen before. I remember in November where everyone was super bearish, and we looked at these historical data points and suggested that it's not over until the fat lady sings, and we need to wait for the November close. And you know what happened after that. We were 100% correct on the analysis, and we got massive expansion, closing in very, very close to what we previously saw with that average 46% return. Now, let's go through to Ethereum and see what Ethereum did over that 2020 period. Well, you can see 7% in October, 59.45% in November, and then you had over there 19.46% in December. So it wasn't as much of a massive pump as what you saw in November. But then if you go through to the next month, which would be 2021 January, you saw 78.51%, which would have exploded the altcoin sector massively towards the upside. Currently, we've seen negative 3.4, 47.21, and we're currently at 5.67%, and pending the end of the monthly close where we could see massive expansion. So the question is, what does January 2025 hold for Ethereum? Because Ethereum can unlock the secrets to what will happen in the rest of the altcoin sector. And I think I also want to go another step further, again, looking at this at least fractal and how far price was overextended from the 21 EMA over here on Bitcoin. And then we can see we currently also overextended from the 21 EMA, but you can remain like that for the entirety of the bull run, right? Let's just quickly highlight to showcase to what happened next, right? As you can see, this is what happened next. Price, of course, rallied from that point all the way to put in its ultimate top, another 241% move for Bitcoin over there. So if we look at a chart like this, which shows the short-term bubble risk, essentially what this does is it measures how far price is overextended away from the 20 simple moving average on a weekly scale. I'm using the 21 exponential moving average on a weekly, but the result is going to be very, very similar. The short-term bubble risk will suggest, are things overheated or is it business as usual? And how much further are things going to go? Well, you know, because I've shown this a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, that it is really business as usual. We're situated right where we are supposed to be at this point in the cycle. But the question is, where were we in that period, right? In the early 2020 period, just before this parabolic advancement. Taking this one step further as well, what I just want to highlight over here, as you can see the aggressive rally that led into January, and then you cool off, right? That is still possible if we do see something like that. Of course, there should be profit taking if you are massively in profit. So let's go into that time period over there. That would be essentially this zone over here. So we can highlight into that zone over there. It was more or less, again, let's just quickly go back and double check the exact date. So lining up this period, essentially where we would be at now, it's the 7th of December, right? It's the 7th of December in 2020. So lining up around the 7th of December 2020, it's this period over here, just before this whole run up. And if we look at the risk levels, well, you're putting in 1.5, right? 1.5 to 1.75 in that period. And then, of course, following that, you massively shot up to the 1.75 to 2 in terms of the risk level. Now, let's go back to where we're currently situated, which would be, of course, right here. And you'll see we're not even printing 1.5, but in fact, we're printing 1.25. So it's less heated than what it was actually back in 2020. And you can see what came next, right? Which just basically shows you that the market can become very, very irrational towards the upside. And there's a famous saying that the market can remain irrational much longer than you can remain solvent if you're countering that trend, right? So you don't want to be countering the trend. If the overall trends are towards the upside, the best thing that you can do right now is establish your positions, remain locked in those positions, but still possibly have a little bit of cash available just in the event that you're wrong and prices do flush towards the downside. You can load up a little bit more. Or the alternative is, if you are someone that wants to be 100% loaded up in the market, just make sure you're not 100% loaded up on leverage so that you can actually withstand a big drawdown if that does take place. Now, we've built the case. We've outlined why there's such significance around that $77,000 level. And I guess that kind of remains the invalidation. So if we were wrong on this idea and you just had this massive engulfing candle, bearish engulfing candle next week that basically sends price down into this level, that's going to be phenomenal support at $77,500. So as it currently stands, my positioning is that I'm pretty much 100% long in the market right now. And if we do get some sort of a flush that does take us into this region over here, because I'm not on leverage, I can always make up for any sort of a drawdown, which would never be losses incurred because I've been in the market for a long time, ever since the cycle bottom at 16K. And ultimately, I would just make up for those small opportunity costs where I could have previously taken profit by adding a small margin long with some of my spot positions at these levels. And that's essentially how I'm playing it, right? That's what I'm looking at over there. I think time in the market right now is much more important than trying to time the market. Of course, as traders, we do try and time the market, but there's a time and a place where you can chop in and out of your positions. And then there's a time and a place which is pre-expansion, where that's the worst thing to possibly be doing. And the best thing to possibly be doing would be to sit tight, remain in your positions, and hold on for what could be the next parabolic advancement, right? Now, again, let's go another step further and we can have a look at what happened with the actual open interest and the leverage leading up into that time period back in 2020, which would have been that December month, right? And what we can do is we can go through to this period over here and highlight it. And you can see, if you look at the leverage and you study the leverage, and what we'll do is we'll throw on a vertical line over there just to, outline that exact time period of where we were. So we would essentially be on this candle over here. And you can see, if you look at the leverage leading into that time period, just before you got massive expansion, there was small periods of negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. And then ultimately it started to build up, right? Excuse me, I'm actually on the wrong one. It's this period over here. So negative, positive, negative, positive. You broke out the trading range. This would essentially be similar to the trading range that we would have had now, where Bitcoin flushed down to $59,000 and we ranged for 8 months. We led into the big move up. And now we're pretty much on this candle, right? Between this candle and this candle. So you print your red candle over there in 2020. That's December. Leading into the second week, you can see what happens with that open interest, right? A sudden rise eventually starts to take place, and then you get that massive expansion towards the upside, right? So that's highlighted over there. Let's make this a bit bigger, and then let's have a look at where we're at right now. So there it is, a little bit of a chop, and then ultimately blow off top commences. If you look at the current open interest or the funding rate average over here, well, it's very, very similar, right? You had increase, decrease, increase, decrease. And then again, just reminding you of that trading range, right? That was the trading range over here where Bitcoin was capped. You had the yen cash and carry trade unwind that was taking place when Japan started to raise their interest rates. I know there's a lot of concern around that right now. People are worried about that. And that actually led into a negative funding over here on a high time frame on a weekly scale. If you move on to daily, you'll see a lot more negative within that time period. Negative funding in a bull market favors the bulls because usually it creates a trap-like scenario, just like every one of the other previous times that we've seen FTX lows, USDC.D peg, yen cash and carry trade unwind that was taking place. And then you can see open interest rises, falls off again. And could it be that we're about to see a massive spike in the open interest once again, following having just flushed out the majority of the market participants? I think that the probabilities are higher than not that that's probably what's going to take place. Although I do understand that most people out there are probably feeling very, very confused and cautiously bullish, cautiously optimistic with about a 50-50 split of whether things are going to go up or down from the current levels. And this is why it's important to look back at the prior information to see, how things played out before, because you get a lot of valuable information from that prior history to determine what could come next. So the next thing that I want to have a look at over here is, of course, the Bitcoin RSI, specifically on a monthly scale. And what you can notice over here is that whenever you break into that red zone, what's called the overbought zone, right? Overbought can be replaced with a similar term, which would be trending, right? When you move into the overbought zone over here, you can see Bitcoin leads into the parabolic advancement. If you look at the next cycle, as you move into the overbought zone over here, Bitcoin leads into the parabolic advancement. You move into the overbought zone over here and look at the timing again, lining that up. You moved into the overbought zone between November and December of 2020, and you saw what happened next, right? Parabolic advancement. This is, of course, looking at a log scale, and we've seen that tested now for the second time. So first time resulted in a rejection. The RSI came back down. That put in the 74K top. We corrected for 8 months, and then ultimately we're now breaking back out of that zone once again. And I think that the second time that you move into that zone is very, very unlikely that it's going to be a trap, right? We saw it over here. This was back in 2017. You break into the red zone, the bullish control zone, also known as the overbought area. Price comes down, back tests into that. In this instance, it fell through and then reaccumulates and runs through. So there could be a big move ahead, right? Now we need to look to the low time frames to determine the validation and invalidation levels. As it currently stands, bulls are narrowly holding into control over here. You do have a little bit of a divergence taking place, though, between Bitcoin price and the RSI, which is trending down. Bitcoin price still holding up over here. So that could be one thing to consider, of course. But as it currently stands, the trend always trumps everything else and is the most important thing. Higher highs and high lows is the name of the game. You have price still holding above the EMAs, both the 9 and the 18 exponential. And if Bitcoin can get back above 101,490, your yellow line over here, your relative strength index will quickly start to turn back up. We got very close to hitting the 50% level down here, but we missed it, right? We didn't quite get to that level over there, which doesn't really mean too much. It's just if you do come into that level, that starts to line up as a strong bounce zone. But I think one of the most important things that I'm paying attention to over here is due to the various different levels of confluence that we're seeing across the board with the monthly RSI, the fractal from 2020, as well as the triple confluence on the weekly scale between your 50% horizontal level, your 21 exponential moving average, and on top of that, the stop and reversal indicator. Due to these various different levels of confluence, it tells me if the bulls can just defend price for a little bit longer, we will be printing the bull moon. Of course, the much anticipated bull moon is going to be printing on Monday, right? And usually we see a bit of upward pressure leading into that environment. So as long as bulls can defend price and stop price from breaking down over here, I would give slight edge to them that they are holding control. Now, you can also look over here in the Whale Room Discord. If we go through to the deltas, as well as where the orders are placed, you can see currently at $98,000, there's about 317 Bitcoin currently placed there. That's about $31 million worth of Bitcoin orders waiting to be bought up if price does hit that level. So that should elicit a little bit of a move. And then on top of that, you have your liquidation levels for Bitcoin and some of the altcoins, right? Bitcoin slightly positive, so some longs jumping into the market over here. ETH slightly positive, but more neutral if anything. Solana also neutral, slightly on the negative side. Near slightly negative over there. But then you have strong negative over here. Heavy shorting on specifically WIF and Pepe. Now, oftentimes I look to take the counter trade, specifically when it's in a strong trending move, which means I think that both Pepe and WIF present an opportunity. Now, of course, the title suggests that early crypto buyers will make millions, 50x altcoins. You know, you have to go further down the risk curve in order to get those 50x gains. But this is where they made pre-parabolic advancement. So if we are to play out the 2020 fractal and we are to get that parabolic advancement, you probably want to be picking things like this, the likes of Pepe, the likes of 𝗬𝗢𝗡. You know, we've of course spoken about a bunch of other coins which have done really well. BirdDog is one of them, sitting now at $8 million market cap. I mean, if this can close the gap into where Wolf and Andy is, which we've been speaking a lot about, you know, that does create those 50 to 100x potentials, possibly even for the early buyers who are in whale room who got the calls first. 1000x gains are on the table. Those become real possibilities, right? So keep an eye on this. We'll get into the altcoins in just a minute. But nevertheless, looking at your Spaceman BTC key levels, which simply maps out your key monthly highs, lows, etc., you can see bulls are attempting to flip this. We spoke about this yesterday where I said, watch for possibly one more throwback into the previous month's high. And then you want to see acceptance gained at this level. Right now, bulls are attempting to gain acceptance. Acceptance simply means that bears keep trying to pull price below that 99K level, but they can't hold it there for very long, and immediately price gets absorbed, comes back up. That shows you that the psychology is catching up to that level as fair value for the market. The market is deeming that $100,000 Bitcoin is not so bad. Every time it dips under 100,000, you instead of getting 6-figure Bitcoin or buying 5-figure Bitcoin, and that's deemed decent value, right? And that typically leads to the next moves. Now, I definitely don't think that it's retail that are necessarily driving this. At this point in time, it is probably institutions that are TWAPing into this level over here. So buying aggressively, they just set a TWAP order every time it hits that. Basically, it bounces off. Remember, we do drop that TWAP in here. There's your TWAP coming in at 98,302. And basically, that's what these big players are buying off. They're buying off of those levels. And as long as they keep that algorithm on, right? They're buying using algos. As long as they keep that algo running over there, you should continue to TWAP into that, holding above the previous month's high. That's called gaining acceptance. And that could lead into, you know, mass FOMO from these institutions, nation states, all the really, really big players, and then getting prices higher up. Again, trend is your friend till the end of the trend. That's always the most important thing to be looking at. And yes, the uptrend is slowing in momentum. Absolutely, right? You saw a huge move up over here, aggressive towards the upside, and now it is slowing. So it is decision time. It's decision time. There is going to be a big move that's coming very, very soon. And the question is the big move going to be a drop down towards that 85K level? I think that's going to be my main area of interest. I'll highlight it over here. So this area over here would be the main area of interest, 85K, pretty much sweeping those lows over there. Or is it going to be straight expansion up to $110,000, $120,000 in quick succession? That is the $1 million question, right? Right now, there's slight edge that goes towards the bulls because you do still have an uptrend, right? High highs, high lows. You have price holding above the 50 exponential moving average, the red one on the 4-hour time frame, and the blue one, which is a lot to be looking at. I see, as Glenn says over here, you know, retail is sleeping, and retail are absolutely sleeping. I don't believe they're the ones that are TWAPing this. You can actually go and have a look at how are retail doing and where are retail. Are retail in the house? Are they here or are they not here? Let's actually go through and have a look at this. We can look at the YouTube views. Let's see if there's been any change over here in terms of the YouTube views on new players coming into the market. And there are some, but not much, right? So you are eventually going to need something more significant to basically get this to spike above. What I do, however, find interesting is that the price is significantly higher. If you consider where the price was at of course, that Bitcoin top that occurred at $74,000, prices in the region of 25 to let's call it 25% higher. Yet the YouTube views are at exactly the same place, right? So there's a definite divergence there as well happening between where price was previously to get to those all-time highs, and retail interest is dying off, right? So what's going to bring retail interest? What's going to be the next leg to bring that retail interest? Well, maybe if Bitcoin smashes through into a parabolic advancement and ETH starts to outperform, and that brings the altcoin season, that's probably going to be the only thing that brings that final retail interest, right? So we have a lot to look at. Let's continue. Prepare yourselves, right? We need to see price hold above this. If it does hold above this, remember, this is essentially now your range high, yellow line, range low, red line, range high. This is the level to break and hold above, right? That was the breakdown level. We got very, very close. Obviously, from the previous breakdown level, you actually closed a couple of candles above and then fell back down. But this was anticipated yesterday based off of this drawing and this chart over here where we said, throw back one more time, attempt to gain acceptance, and then off you go. I see also in the comments, some of you say Trump inauguration. I do think that that could signal the full breakdown of Bitcoin dominance as well as the USDT dominance, and that could bring the full-blown altcoin season. But again, as mentioned, it's not really the time or the place to be sidelined, in my personal opinion. I'm just telling you guys exactly what I'm doing. I'd feel very uncomfortable to be fully out the market at this point in time. So prepare yourselves, guys. There is also an exchange that you can trade on if you happen to be new and you don't have a place to trade. Blowfin's where it's at, right? They're giving you 0% on the taker fees, I believe. Let's just see. There we go. 0% maker fees, 50% off on taker fees. It's one of the cheapest places to trade. They have Fireblock Security, which is the highest security. They don't custody your funds. It's another third-party security company that do, which means that your funds are safe, right? You can't have an FTX-like collapse with someone like Blowfin. High liquidity and no KYC as one of the most important parts. You get a sign-up bonus as well when you do sign up and 10% cashback, right? So use the link in the description below. If you haven't yet signed up, sign up, because that qualifies you to guess the price as well of what Bitcoin will be, right? You can play the guess the price of Bitcoin for the 1st of January. Closest guess will win themselves a full Bitcoin, right? So all the links are below over there. Sign up to Blowfin, sign up to Bybit, Bitget, and CoinW, and then you can participate and go and guess, right? Let me just quickly show you how it works, just because I see in the comments some people are saying, what do you mean? How do you win a full Bitcoin, right? You go here, click there, win Bitcoin. Once you've signed up, put in your user ID, put in your price prediction. I'm actually going to go with 120,000 this time based on the new information that we've been looking at. All right, let's look at the funding. So funding is reset completely. This creates almost the perfect environment to, of course, catapult price higher as well, because a lot of people have been shaken out. When people get shaken out, they're very reluctant to buy prices higher. And most of the coins that they would have been shaken out at the bottom of are already trading significantly higher, some as high as 50% higher already. And the psychology struggles to catch up to that, to, face the fact that one day later they have to buy higher. So we are expecting that breakdown of Bitcoin dominance next year on the yearly scale, and we think that could take out the lows. That's a huge move. Let's just actually quickly see over here in terms of a percentage. If that had to drop, let's talk about, even if this had to just drop from there to the lows, that's a 31% drop in Bitcoin dominance. That would be significant, very significant. So you have Bitcoin dominance coming into this key area over here. We said as well yesterday, this could elicit a small bounce, which could create one more pullback, and then you need to look for the next lower high. So observe the weekly candle is going to be very important. Watch for something like that, and the next breakdown should get alts flying, right? So that's that over there. USDT dominance as well, same thing. You have this little trend line over here, but as soon as you start to break below that trend line, that should get things running down quickly. Remember, this is money flowing then out of Bitcoin, money flowing out of the Tether dominance and moving into the altcoin sector, right? Okay. ETH as well, ETH BTC looking pretty decent over here. ETH needs to break and close above 4,000, and then you'll get this parabolic advancement. Really not many changes over there. Let's look at the total cryptocurrencies, total 1, 2, 3, others, and then total 3 measured against Bitcoin and others against Bitcoin. So still a validation basically now can be raised. I think it's very unlikely that you take out that wick. So I'm going to elevate this now. That would now go stop losses pretty much across the board on altcoins would basically go now below this week's candle low, right? So we expect continuation from this point. Okay, the flush has occurred, right? We've seen the swing failure pattern. Remember, this is a swing failure pattern. A lot of people trailed their stop losses too close. That's why I actually had that on that previous candle over here. I had this 2 weeks behind and not 1 week behind the lows, because that's what you tend to see, right? You see the swing failure pattern, flush the stops out over there, reclaim. Now I would move it underneath this candle because the flush has already occurred, right? So I think that you can elevate most of your stop losses. Total 2 still looking good over there. Timing wise, we're still looking at October as the base case for where the end of the cycle could come. Right, 𝗕𝗤𝗓 over here. If you look at 𝗕𝗤𝗓 as well, a lot of work to do on this one, but it hit the 50% level. As soon as you get closing candles, of course, above this 1.2 trillion, that's where the fireworks begin to take place, because this is your altcoin index chart, right? Others is also removing the top 10 over there. Fireworks begin if this starts to close above 460 billion, which could be just a couple of weeks away. Okay, 𝗕𝗤𝗓 measured against Bitcoin. You've had your back test into the breakup structure. Same thing on others against BTC. You've had your back test into the breakup structure. That is the level where you expect things to start to move. So we can have a look at the altcoins. Again, as mentioned, some of the coins to be looking at are things like, in my opinion, I'm going to give you coins that I think would move very, very hard in the next run up, very, very quickly towards the upside. Dog with hat, right? Flipping a key level over here. This from current price to the 3.168 fib extension, which I think is incredibly likely, would be a 400% move, right? That's a 4x return without even touching leverage. A 400% move. I'm busy building a massive long position on leverage into WIF right now as it currently stands. So let's see. Hopefully it breaks out of there, looking to hold the midline. If you do fail that, there is, of course, major support at $2. Then you have to be looking a lot lower. Now, these are big invalidations, but if you're looking for big moves, this is the way that it works, right? You have to expect that the invalidation is going to be very, very far away. So that's one. I think GOAT is pretty solid to add into your portfolio. We've spoken about it specifically on the daily time frame, which I'll go to now. Let's quickly find that over there. GOAT. Here it is. There it is. GOAT on the daily time frame. So deviation, reclaiming the bottom of the trading range over there, and essentially target 1, 98 cents, target 2, 133, and then you can start to target higher. And that's not even including, of course, the fib extensions, right? If you start to include the fib extensions as well, there it is. Then you're talking about much higher prices. If, like the rest of the coins, this has to hit the 3.618. GOAT as an AI agent is one of the narratives, 400% move, similar to what you're seeing on WIF, right? So take your pick, essentially take your pick. You got Bonk as well. Bonk on the daily time frame, losing the range high, right? So very, very key level. This one might need some more time to cool off. It needs to get back above that 50% level as quick as possible, which is the white line, and basically reclaims the top of the yellow. That confirms a little bit of a bear trap. We have Brett as well. One of my biggest meme coin positions, basically back testing the mid-range, sweeping all the liquidity over here where the stop losses were placed. Same thing as Bonk, right? You want to get back above the range high, 1820. I think this will be a banger for the rest of the cycle. Let's actually see in terms of fib extensions. You're looking at possibly a move up to 57, right? 57 cents. So that is from current price, a 223% move would be pretty substantial. Okay, 𝗕𝗤𝗓 is, of course, one of the top ones that we've been looking at. It is currently cooling off at the moment, but it's been one with the most relative strength. So going back onto the weekly charts over here, this had a lot of relative strength, right? Pausing following the break of this move over here. And if you compare it to something like Doge, we spoke about this yesterday, this is pre-expansion, right? Pre-expansion, just before things are about to move up. So I'd be looking at that. We already got our Jasmy trade in very, very early. This is super powerful, holding above the top of the range, flush down pretty much. I think that's as bad as it will get for Jasmy. The rest should be full vertical send from here. Okay, what else have we got in terms of memes? Popcat, right? I definitely think Popcat's worthwhile adding into the list. This one's great value right now, coming back into essentially the mid-range level, right into the demand zone over there. That is your demand zone, coming perfectly into that, testing it, and currently it's holding, right? So let's go on to the daily and just see what that looks like in terms of Popcat, right? Popcat, there it is. And then we'll also have a look at 𝗕𝗫𝗖𝗟𝗙, right? So there it is, Popcat holding up over here. Watch these wicks. You feel the inefficiency over there, and you're looking for a high move. 𝗕𝗫𝗙, powerful, right? Powerful. We spoke about similar to Popcat. Popcat is essentially trading over here when you compare it to something like 𝗕𝗫𝗙, right? This is filling that demand, right? Coming into the demand zone over there. A little bit of a fair value gap. You didn't get properly into the fair value gap, but the rest is history. Coinbase listing runs at full turbo towards the top side. New all-time highs over there for 𝗕𝗫𝗙. This is what your weekly scale looks like. very, very bullish, right? So we highlighted that ages ago, and we're looking for from bottom to top a 280% move on GigaChad. That means it's still got about another 82% to go. Okay, SPX, maybe look at that on the daily time frame. How does this one look? It's very choppy. It's all over the place. I think this one's probably better to look on this chart. Let's just go SPX. SPX on the daily. Let's just get more price history from DEX Tools. 26,700 holders, $610 million market cap. And let's get that to load up. Let me know in the comments as well what else you want to have a look at. Guys, also smash the like button. It really helps to get the show content out there. YouTube essentially works on an algorithm. Okay, so here it is. Pretty much just range bound, right? Range bound environment. There's your range low, 46.80. There's your range high. You know, this had an absolutely enormous move, guys. When you see a move this big, you have to understand it takes a lot of time for something like this. It's a 10,000% move. I mean, guys, 10,000% move. Now it takes time. You have to expect that it's going to range for quite a while. Personally, I'm not interested in SPX. I'm more interested in some of the other coins. I just think, like, I don't know who the guys were that were loading up over here, but you know, they probably hold a lot of these coins. That's the only thing that worries me over there. Whereas I think some of these other ones are a little bit more diversified amongst the top holders. Okay, what else? What else, guys? Let's quickly scan through. Anything else? Myro. Quickly looking at Myro over here. There it is, right? Coming back into the demand zone, hitting that level 0.085 key level. You know, I think if you're buying or DCAing into this, you should make a lot of money on that trade. Turbo's done very, very well. One of our picks, we're looking at it into this area over here. Now, this is what I think a lot of the other coins look like. Consider this image over here of essentially, if we just go back a little bit. So consider this image over here, right? Deviating the level. We spoke about the dangers or the risk of deviating that level. And then, of course, you know, we know what comes next, right? If you just push play, deviation, price runs up. Now, let's go back to something like Bonk, right? Could it be that Bonk is doing something similar to that? I think it's very, very likely. I think it's very, very likely that, you know, this is your final flush. And then you're going to see something like that from Bonk, right? So don't get shaken out too quickly on your positions. This is part of the reason why we got into those trades a lot earlier, right? Way, way, way back, so that we don't have to, you know, wrestle with the extreme emotions of buying near the tops over here or the pre-expansion, which feels like a top. All right. Let's go to some of the more, you know, traditional coins. Aptos, weekly scale, bullish, right? Very, very bullish. This one's looking good. You're expecting closes above the weekly. The only thing is you're going to have a lot of, you know, inefficiency of normal candles over here. Whenever you see a wick that forms like this, a major wick, oftentimes you'll come back and you'll revisit 50% of that wick. So the only thing that I'd be careful of is aping into positions over here for if next week you might come back down one more time in the future, in the next couple of weeks, test 50% of that wick. So come back into the mid-range and then run it, right? You do have to be aware that something like that is a possibility. What else? What else? TON. Okay, let's go to TON over there. 642, holding around that mid-range, decent. SUI, obviously, phenomenal, doing super, super strong, getting a lot of media attention as well. So eventually you have to be careful if this extends as high as the 3.618. I'll probably be taking a lot of profit over there. Casper, almost coming back down to the mid-range. You know, this one's going to take time. It is part of our portfolio, but we're not all in on that. Injective needs to get back above $30. That's your mid-range. Near, holding above the mid-range. Next target to take out is going to be $8.37, right? So I think that for most of these coins, if you just look at, you know, the breakup structure, you've essentially had that back test, right? So pretty much just mark your levels out, give or take like that. You know, you've had your big push up, you've had your throwback, came back into the mid-range level over there as we have labeled. And now basically you're looking for slow grind up, reclaim of the range high, and then acceleration higher. Okay, Phantom. How's Phantom doing on the scale? Okay, fighting to hold the top side of the trading range. Once it does, you know, gain acceptance above that, you might need a little bit more time to spend over there, and then acceleration higher should be the name of the game. We spoke about getting a position in, say, already ages ago. You know, this one is doing what we said it probably would, which was the rounded bottom. So consolidate, move towards the top of the neckline. If you start to break above this, you have big, big moves ahead of you. Okay, let's go to how's Mantra doing? Mantra still holding up. one of the most powerful charts in crypto right now. I saw there was some render. That was an interesting one. Let's go have a look at render. Here's render. AI sector. I think between memes and AI, these are probably going to be some of the top sectors in the next phase of the run, right? AI, meme coins, real world assets, and I'm starting to look to position pretty aggressively into gaming very, very soon, or at least diversify out of layer ones into gaming. So render also still looking for a big move up, slowly but surely creating that round bottom. It's going to do what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin breaks out, expect continuation, major resistance at $13.18, and then it should break beyond that point, right? It should go up much, much higher after that. Okay, let's see. AI agents. Yeah, we've covered AI agents, at least some of them. We said GOAT was one of them to look at if you want to just bet on, one of the biggest blue chips in the space. Okay, AVAX. Yeah, let's have a look at AVAX very, very quickly. AVAX. So there's the trade. Essentially, you can manage your risk on the low time frames, but that was the trade setup over there. So stop loss basically going below the wick lows over there, and you can just trail this up. I'm going to go back on the weekly just to showcase where this is at. This has just broken the down sloping trend line, rounded bottom, high low. It's a cup and handle, just lopsided, but nevertheless, it's a cup and handle formation. Breaking this level, you got your range high at 60. This would be a long trade, right? This is a long trade. Most of the things have lined up as a long trade, despite, what the keyboard warriors might be telling you. All right, what else? What else have we got, guys? Let me know in the comments. Also, very, very quick mention before we do continue. Protect your capital. I keep getting messages on Discord. Guys, I won't DM you. Please protect your capital. You can do this in 2 ways. Well, 3 ways, actually. The first and most important way is don't ever give your money to someone else. That's the easiest one. It doesn't even cost you a cent. Don't send your money to anyone else. Don't send your crypto to anyone else. This all mostly stems off of new people and greed in the market, where, they're being promised that they'll get outsized returns in a secret trading fund or something like that, and you're sending your capital to the criminals, right? Please don't do that. Once you send your crypto to someone, it's gone forever. You'll never, ever get it back. The next thing that you can do is get yourself a ledger, right? Probably one of the most important things to do. I have multiple ledgers because I split my portfolios to de-risk a little bit. So it depends how much money you have, of course. If you have like 4 figures, you just get 1 ledger. But if you're talking about someone that has 10 figures, 12 figures, you probably want to get multiple different ledgers. Banter do have a special link for you guys, which gives you a limited time offer. You can get these ledgers, the Ledger Flex, and they'll give you $70 worth of Bitcoin with that, right? They don't load on the ledger because that would invade your privacy. The ledger boxes must be sealed at all times, but they'll give you a voucher that you'll be able to basically use to put the $70 onto that ledger for free, right? If you use that link. Otherwise, you pay normal price and you don't get the $70. The other thing, guys, a VPN, right? As you can see, I always have my VPN on, right? I'm connected right now. VPN is on. It's only $3.27 a month. Protect yourself. Most important thing, just don't send your money to anyone. Please don't send your crypto to anyone. It's gone. I promise you, if you send your crypto to anyone, it is gone. What they do is they reach out as if they're me. They say, hey, it's 𝗕𝗢𝗕𝗓 here. How's your trading going? That's the key word. If they say that, it's a scam, right? Please be careful. Okay, let's continue. So 𝗬𝗢 measured against Solana, Bitcoin, 𝗬𝗢 against Solana breakout is in play. I've been looking at a lot of the different coins, 𝗬𝗢 against ETH, 𝗬𝗢 against Bitcoin. It is all very, very bullish, right? They're all bullish. We'll look for other charts that are coming into or creating similar chart patterns. This is essentially a trend in motion. I wouldn't really buy the breakouts of these pairs like as you see them, but rather I'd wait for a meaningful high low to form, right? So if you get some sort of a pullback, basically it means I wouldn't FOMO out of my Bitcoin or my Solana or whatever the coin is into 𝗬𝗢 right now. I would rather wait if I was you for some sort of a meaningful pullback like that on the pair, right? So high, low, and you can basically get into the next high, low because you've cleared that resistance. At some point, you probably get a nice back test into this level to test. Is this really, really holding as major support for continuation higher, right? Okay, let's continue. What else have we got? Let's quickly scan through some of the gaming coins. So how they're looking. There we have it. Okay, weekly scales. Let's go. Okay, 𝗕𝗓𝗓 Games, pretty much bottomed out over here. Let's see if it can start to form a rounded bottom. Probably better off looking on the daily. Let's go on the daily time frame over here. Let's see. Okay, gaming. All right, here it is. 𝗕𝗓. Let's go back to 𝗕𝗓. Okay, so there it is. We hit the range lows. That's your key level over there, all the way down in the pink box, starting to create the rounded bottom. Just track those high lows, right? High, low. You're expecting your next high low to form pretty much right here. The recent flush that occurred should be the next major high low for the majority of the coins. Continuation to 2.1, and then hopefully get a bit of a push up from there. Okay, Atlas coming into mid-range right now. So, maybe not the best time to be buying. We did mention them when they were around the range lows over here for those of you who were on the channel back then. Okay, you have 𝗕𝗫𝗖𝗔𝗕. 𝗕𝗫𝗖 is reclaiming the mid-range, so this is probably a pretty decent spot. You had a fair value gap as well. Let me just zoom in. You did have a bit of a fair value gap over there. I think it may already be filled. Let's just quickly measure that out. Okay, so you did capture on this candle that flushed on the Tuesday, the 10th of December. You got into that zone, pretty much in validation under there if you want to be long on 𝗕𝗫𝗖, trading it up to about $2.80. Okay, let's see 𝗕𝗫𝗓𝗓. How's 𝗕𝗓𝗓 doing? 𝗕𝗓𝗓 was always one of the top picks in the last cycle. Personally, I'd wait for it to reclaim 0.063. It's not really worth buying it into resistance over here. I'm going to move past Sandbox. Let's see how 𝗕𝗓𝗓's doing. Okay, 𝗕𝗓𝗓 moving up, right? There it is, your rounded bottom, originating off of the falling wedge formation, breaking out, failing a couple of times, high volatility, stops now go below that low, and you're looking to trade this up towards the neckline, which is about $2, break above $2, and then this could get sent a lot higher, right? Just to showcase where this could go, 𝗕𝗓𝗓 coin as a target, break above that neckline from current price, this could easily move about 136%. And this is a lot of, resistance levels as well to look out for over there. Okay, 𝗙𝗢𝗙𝗡, similar to 𝗕𝗓𝗓 coin, falling wedge over here, deviates the bottom of the trading range, breaks back inside. This one's also loading up for the next move. When there is a gaming rotation, I do believe these ones will do pretty well. Let's see, any other ones worth mentioning? Super's obviously been a top performer. If I were not in Super personally, I couldn't justify getting into it now. I would have to wait for, a massive, meaningful pullback, possibly down into this $1.16. Otherwise, you just need to look to other coins that are performing, right? So I think, let's see, is there anything else? What else have we got? Anything that we missed over here? Any other requests, guys? Let me know. Beam. Let's have a look at Beam quickly, because Beam has been an important one to look at. So let's see, Beam USDT. There it is. How's Beam doing? Okay, Beam, very, very good, right? Most of these coins are going to be putting in cup and handle formations, so you can pretty much already mark out that neckline. There it is. There's your neckline. There is your move. So break from top of the breakout level, percentage move, 105% still for Beam. Okay. So Beam's still looking good, right? High highs, high lows. It's getting aggressive. You might pull back over here in the form of some sort of a double top. If you do, then it will look similar to what Bitcoin and ETH did, right? First time testing that level, reject, pull back possibly close to the mid-range, create your handle for the cup and handle, and then you can have another opportunity to load up, right? So that's what I'll be looking at over there, guys. Again, if you want to check out more within Whale we have a lot of other traders that are in there. They're currently dropping their trades. You got Farouk over here, who's been absolutely crushing it as well. You have Josh the Navigator, Christo Columbus. It's not just me in there. And then, of course, you have my section. I've been running a poll. I'll show it to you guys over here. How is the sentiment right now? How are people feeling? You can see the majority of people, at least in Whale are feeling cautiously bullish, right? They feel it's 50-50 right now, whether we're going down much lower. A couple of people are mega bears looking for deep pullback to 77K. I've outlined the case for why I think that's less likely. And then you got like 28% of the people that are looking for a giga pump, right? I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments, because I've already laid the case, showcased the fractal from 2020 and the similarities to what we've seen over there. So please let me know. Let me know what you think. Also, if you do want an exchange link, remember, you do have Blowfin. That's it from me, folks. I'll see you all on the next one. I hope you have a stellar day. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers for now.